Hello, my friends. Welcome to the Back to Me podcast. And this is Heather. And this week I am talking with Michelle, and we are talking about keeping it simple, my friend, keeping it simple. Michelle is an expert in exercise and diet and keeping your body healthy, which you know is super important. And she just makes it so easy and totally achievable. And you do not have to run a marathon or cut all of the food out of your life. So have a listen. Let me know what you think and have an amazing day. Take care. Hi, my friends. Welcome. This is the Back to Me podcast, and this is Heather, and I am super excited that you're here. You are going to hear some tips and some tricks and some ideas to help you live your happiest and healthiest self. I call it Back to Me because when you are taking care of yourself, back to me, then you can take better care of others, and we can all make the world a better place. This is Wellness Your Way, and I am super happy that you're here. Hello, my friend. Welcome. I hope you are having a super duper day. And this is Heather, and this is the Back to Me podcast. And we are talking to yet another amazing human being who is going to tell us lots of good things on how we can be better at what we want to be better at, right? So today I am welcoming Michele. Oh my God, I forgot to ask you how to say her last name.
Riechman, you say the E.
Riechman.
It's tricky.
I was going to say Richmond.
Yeah.
All right. So, well, after I butchered your name, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. And most people do. My maiden name used to be Jones. I'm like, can't we stick with Jones? Everyone can say and spell that one.
It'd be so easy. So easy,
Yeah.
Michele Jones. Okay. Well, we've got to have challenges in life. Otherwise, we get bored, right?
Yes. Yes.
And it's so funny. That's not where I wanted to segue, but I didn't want to segue straight into, things to challenge our bodies to make them healthy. But save that, put that one on pause. Before I dive into all the fabulous things I'm always super curious about how you got into what you do. And that also, funny enough, helps people understand what you do.
Yeah. So I have my degree in physical therapy, and I currently do online personal training and health coaching. So I have 4 kids now, but after I had 3 kids, I really struggled with my health and really struggled to just find the time. You're trying to keep these little humans alive, fed, the house not completely destroyed. And it gets really easy to put yourself on the back burner. And I think whether you're in a phase of life with little kids or older, like life is just so busy, and the easiest thing to do is to put yourself on the back burner and not take care of yourself, because a lot of things in our health we don't really see right away. So maybe if we're not eating the best or not moving, we don't see that negative effect right away, so it gets easy to do that. But I was going up a flight of stairs and I was out of breath, and I was like, oh my goodness, I'm like way too young to be out of breath just from a flight of stairs. But what can I do and fit it into my day? So I started with really short, quick workouts, about 10 minutes, and really just built up my strength, because I was thinking, like, if I just need to go up a flight of stairs and not be out of breath, I don't need to go out and run a 5K or do anything big. I could keep it simple and keep it small. So I did that with my exercise. And then I started to do that with my nutrition, really just going back to the basics. And that is sort of how I work with my clients, really trying to keep things simple and doable, and also in a way that feels good on our body. A lot of my clients are in their 40s, 50s, or 60s, and you get these aches and pains that start creeping up,
Oh
and
my
you get
gosh.
scared to exercise, scared to move. You don't know how to start. So I love helping my clients really be able to start in a way that feels good without overdoing it, and just to keep it really simple.
Right. And it's true. Like I can remember probably when I was in university, I took an exercise class because I was in first year university and you study all the time and you don't eat right because you're cooking for yourself and all those things. And I took a fitness class and she wanted us to go up and down stairs to warm up. And I was just like one set of stairs and I was done. I was thinking, and I was only in my 20s thinking,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, this is terrible. And you made the comment that, you didn't need to go run a 5K or do anything huge. I I have found this, and maybe you find it, is you get into your head, or you get the impression that it has to be something huge and epic, and humans never seem to do anything on a small scale,
Yeah, and a lot of people come to me with that, and I sort of call that like the all or nothing mindset. It's like
right?
I have to be all in, and I think it comes from this diet culture we're into, where to be healthy we have to follow some strict diet, or we just eat whatever we want. And the same thing with exercise, going back to like we used to hear all these recommendations to do cardiovascular activity 45 to 60 minutes a day, and that's really not what we need all the time. We can do shorter stuff. So we have this input from other sources in the past telling us that it has to be this big thing. And really, it doesn't. You don't need to follow a diet. Do you probably need to eat healthier foods, have healthier habits? Yes. You don't need to do an hour of cardio. And sometimes that can actually slow your metabolism down and not be good for you, anyways. Do you need to do a little bit and move your body? Yes, but you can find ways to sort of drop that. I have to go all in. I have to do something really hard. I have to get super sweaty to get a workout. And you can shift that mindset a little bit.
If we do, it's true that all or nothing is like the perfect way to describe it. It's like when I started running, I started with, "Oh, I'll just run, a couple kilometers," and then it became, "I have to run a marathon." Which I did, which I don't think actually was very good for me. Like, people think, "Oh, wow, you ran a marathon," but the physical toll that it took on my body, because I ran 2 of them, I don't think in retrospect that it was a good long-term strategy, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and I s a comment that you made about, doing an hour of cardio can slow your metabolism. What? Tell me what you're talking about.
Yeah, and first, I love how you, like, notice, like, maybe that wasn't the best for my body, because I think when we're doing things for our health, we're all different, so we really need to, like, step back and look at that, like, if someone is trying to be vegetarian, can they step back and look at, like, "Do I actually feel better?" And just sort of taking that objective view. So, it's really interesting with cardio, some of the research actually points to, especially if you're not starting, you don't have a good baseline, and you go into doing a lot of cardio, you burn a lot of calories in a really short amount of time. So, what that does to your body is it sends up your hunger hormones and all these other things, and you want to eat after. Like, some people will do cardio and they feel like they're constantly hungry after, and that's your body's way of protecting itself. So versus like if you do strength training, maybe you only do strength training, we'll say 30 minutes. You're not going to burn as many calories in that moment, but you're going to have an afterburn because those muscles are breaking down and rebuilding, and that takes energy, but it doesn't stress your metabolism. So
Right.
there was a study where the participants did a longer amount of cardio, and most of the people didn't see any change in their weight. A small amount lost weight and a small amount actually gained weight. So it's really important to look at it. And it is good to move our bodies to get your heart rate up. But we really want to step back and take a look at what's our goal? How is this doing for my body? How is my body feeling? Is this hurting my joints, or do my joints feel better? And really being able to look at all these pieces. And a lot of people, we just don't know this information. We don't sometimes know what to look for as we're doing stuff. So that's where like working with someone can help put some of those pieces together, especially if you're feeling really stuck and not sure what to do.
Right, and it's true. I mean, I can remember, clients, so I was a massage therapist for 14 years, and I actually just retired at the end of 2022. I gotta always check what year it is, and it's interesting, like, we're talking about, what feels right, but I found that there were a lot of people who, because we do spend a lot of time in our society right now in our heads, and we celebrate everything intellectual, um, they didn't know what they didn't know what it felt like to be good, feel good, and they were disconnected from like signs of the body not feeling ideal. So, I had a client at one point who had a chronic repetitive strain injury, and they said, "Well, why is it hurting? And I was saying, well, they thought it just suddenly started hurting all at once, and I mean, I felt bad for them because I said, "Well, no, it's been building slowly. It just didn't start instantly. It's just it suddenly got bad enough for you to notice." But they hadn't noticed, and they didn't understand the actions that they were doing that was causing it, and I feel like if we could make it so that, and this is what you're doing, which makes me pretty excited. You can make it so it's like you don't have to go crazy. Just do these little things. Then so many more people would be healthier and be in touch with what their body needs. And it's not an all or nothing. Everybody has to be vegan. Everybody has to be plant based. Everybody needs keto. Everybody needs paleo.
Yes. Yes, all the different things, and it gets super confusing. And it goes back to this idea of what's sustainable, especially when it comes to your nutrition. And for the most part, I don't recommend diets except if someone has a medical condition. And like there are some people that will do better in keto, but if we're just talking weight loss or health, diets are not the way to go because you can't stay with it. You're not going to stay keto if you don't have a super strong reason to be keto. Like I have seizures, or maybe my child has autism, whatever it is. If you don't have that strong reason, you're not going to stay on it long term. And it goes back to consistency. So the idea with the workouts, if you can do 10-minute workouts consistently every day of the week, you're going to build into yourself. I'm someone who moves my body every day. Your muscles are going to start changing. Versus if you're someone who just does an hour of cardio one day a week, you're not going to see that benefit. But when you start doing it every day and you can do it consistently, you start to change that mindset. Like, I can do this. I'm actually becoming successful. I can do that 10-minute workout. And you see those changes and you feel better too.
Right. And I mean, it always overflows. So when I talk about, when I do wellness with people, I talk about physical wellness, but I also talk about your emotional wellness, your relationships,
Mm-hmm.
your job, your financials, your spirit, your purpose. And if your body doesn't feel good, we know already that it overflows into all of those areas because when you don't feel good, nothing else works. But
Yes.
when you do feel good, you have that same effect. It overflows and makes everything else work so much better. And I always think you don't know what you don't know. Like you don't know how good you could feel unless you tried to change something, right?
Yes. Yeah, I love that. You're not gonna know till you can actually make that change and really stick with that change. And I think especially when it comes to health, that sticking is the hardest part. So it just
Right.
goes back to the idea of what habits can I change to make this stick? So imagine if someone tends to eat, we'll just say a big bowl of rice with dinner and they want to lose weight. Well, what if they just ate maybe half the rice and they kept everything else the same? So they're just changing one little thing. They're going to start to see that result. They don't have to follow some super big diet or do something extreme. When you can start to make these little habit changes in your life, that's where you'll see it pay off because you're going to stick with it. It's going to be more doable. It's going to feel like something you can do instead of something that is so overwhelming.
Right. Yeah. I can remember the first time I decided I would go on a diet and I didn't know anything at the time. And it was like trying to learn Latin or something. It was just it was too much. And I mean, it was way back in the 90s. It doesn't seem like the 90s should be that long ago, but yeah, I know that it is. But
Yeah.
it's true. And and I've I think I think about a few things like small changes will accumulate to
Mhm.
bigger changes in your life. Like then you won't be overwhelmed. Like you won't overwhelm yourself. You know, your mind, you won't overwhelm your body, like you were saying, where you lose too many calories too fast and it goes
Yeah.
crazy. But also, oh yeah, where did my thought just go? Phew. Did you see it? It went out the side door. Overwhelming
Oh,
thoughts. Oh, habit stacking, habits. So, you probably read James Clear's book on Atomic Habits. Everybody
yeah,
has. But if you
yeah,
haven't, it's okay. Don't feel bad if you haven't read it. But it's like pairing it with something you already do because changing habits is habits are just things we do without thinking, right?
Mhm.
So I remember the other day I thought, well, I'm not going to eat any chocolate today. And then I was sitting there, I'm like, oh my God, I just had a piece of chocolate. So I hadn't even realized what I was doing. I'm like, oh my God, I have a habit. And
Yeah.
I mean, we develop them on purpose because our brains are good at just automating things.
Mhm.
But to change a habit or to create a new habit, if you can pair it with something you already do, it makes it so much easier. And that was so
Yes.
brilliant. That was such a brilliant thing for him to maybe identify. Maybe it was already known, but so do you find there's things that help people so that like just eating slightly less rice or maybe only one dinner roll instead of three?
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. So with my clients, I typically take it from a habit-based approach. And exactly like you were saying, some things we're going to pair with a habit. You can even think of setting your workout clothes the night before, maybe where you're going to go brush your teeth. So you see it because a lot of us, we just need to spend less brain power thinking about what we need to do. And that's the hardest part about changing habits is it takes a lot of brain power because it's not on automatic. So figuring out ways to make that easier. And when those struggles or bumps come up, being able to talk it through and plan again, like, okay, maybe that didn't work setting my workout clothes here. Maybe I need to do this, or figuring out these different things so you can find a way that your brain is going to remember to do that so you can use less brain power. One of my clients, she's in my membership, and she started. So I'm not working with her privately. She's in this sort of group membership, and we do group coaching calls, and she has workouts and stuff. But she's like, yeah, she's like, it works. All this stuff you're saying. She's like, I lost 5 pounds, and I'm like, I'm not dieting. Like, I just tweaked my protein intake. I like did this little thing, and you know, and you do these little things, and it starts to work, and it feels so shocking because we're just so used to like having to see this dramatic change, like having to do this dramatic thing different and see a big drop right away. And it really doesn't have to be that way. You just have to really tune in on what you need to do because you're not going to change a bunch of your habits at one time. Really focusing on 1, 2 things that you want to change or add into your routine. And then once that becomes a routine, once it becomes a habit that doesn't seem hard anymore, then add something else on it. And just so everybody knows, usually that takes more than 21 days. We always hear 21 days for a
Yeah.
habit. And most of the time, it's going to be closer to 2 or 3 months for that really to feel like a habit where you don't have to think. And I think the other area clients sometimes get caught up in is seasons change. So these different seasons in our life, maybe if you're a mom who has kids going from the school year to the summer, or even if you don't have kids. And I recently moved across the country. And so that's a different season. And I've had to adjust. So you almost have to relook at some of these habits you're doing and making sure as your life is changing a little bit that you're changing and readjusting those habits if you need to.
Yeah, I was thinking seasons in 2 ways, like season of life. So
Yes.
I'm in my 50s. I'm definitely not actually, I'm in better shape than I am than when I was in my 20s. So, but in
Woohoo.
general, I'm not going to do what in my 50s what I would might have done in my 20s. And also seasons of the year. So I live in Toronto, and it's winter, or when winter comes, it's cold, and there's snow on the ground. So you have to adjust. Like it's too dangerous to go for a walk right now.
Yeah.
So what can I do at home? Or it's too hot out because it's July and I'm gonna, the air quality warning is out, so I can't go out. So what can I do? But I had a client once who I was working with who um, I said, this was, and this might work for some people, this was what this person needed because she would say, well, I just don't know what to do. I said, well, have a bunch of Rolodex cards and write down stuff you like to do and just pick one out and do that. So then like you said, it takes brain power to think. So I said, you don't have
Yeah.
to think, just put it on some cards and pick one. Like if it's a sunny day, pick a sunny day card. If it's a rainy day, pick the rainy day card. And that worked for her. But
Yeah.
some people want it, you know, done differently. It depends how your brain works.
Yeah, I sort of think having a master list like that, and I have a meal planning made easy. It's a free workshop. You can catch it on my website. But the idea of that is you make this master meal list, and I teach you how to do that. So you're listing out all the things you like normally eat. Maybe you look up some other recipes. You can organize it into quicker or longer meals, but you're basically doing this brain dump. So then when you go to make your meals for the week, you're looking at this master meal list and you can just transfer it and it makes it super easy. So you're not thinking, what are some things we eat? What should we have? Because you
Right.
have that list right there. So having that for different things, just like you were talking about, can really be helpful.
Yeah, and what is you have a did you say you have a free master class?
Yeah, so it's just called Meal Planning Made Easy. It's on my website under freebies. So that's just a great resource. And it teaches you how to plan a month of meals in 30 minutes. And I've
Whoa.
been doing this for a while. And usually, like once you do it once or twice, I can do it in less than 30 minutes and have all those meals planned out. And it just goes back to that idea of less brain power and really like, how can I keep my meal planning more simple? Because we are going to eat every day.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, if we don't have a meal planned out or don't have something in place, we're grabbing fast food, we're just grabbing some junk food, we're grabbing something that's easy. So, if you can take the load off your mind and just do this quick planning and have it out, and you'll still have to grocery shop, but you'll have it all there and it just makes it easier and it really brings just more ease into your life and can help you stay focused on your goals. So if you want to eat healthier and you have these healthier meals planned, that's going to be a lot easier.
Well, and I remember at one point I was the person who said, "Ah, but I just don't know what I'm gonna wanna eat that day." And then, that day comes and you're hungry and you do the thing you should never do, which is find something to eat while you're starving. And never shop
Yes.
hungry. Never shop hungry. You can't think straight. And
Mhm.
and it's true, like, I have clients who are so busy, some of them won't eat, or they'll just eat whatever the office brings in, and, neither of those are good options, and when you can know in advance, you might think, "Oh, I'm not being spontaneous," because I guess we think being spontaneous is cool, but you are in greater control of your nutrition, right?
Yeah.
And you actually feel better.
Yeah. And I think it's, especially when it comes to our health, we do have to be pretty intentional because most of us don't live in a place that promotes health. We live around where we're constant commercials, constantly processed food, um, that we're so busy, we don't make time to move our bodies. So we're not in a culture that's promoting health. So if you want to be healthy and feel good, you're going to have to be intentional about it. And just like you said, when you're hungry, don't grocery shop. That's because our brain, when we get to that hungry or hangry point, we're craving carbs and sugar because that gets into our bloodstream very fast. And our body knows that. So, what can we do to be intentional, making sure that we're eating enough, maybe eating enough protein, depending what it is? What can you do so that you're feeling better so you don't get to that point? And how can you be intentional? Like, what if there is a break room with all these sweets? Is that really what you need? And being able to sort of plan ahead for some of those situations that come up.
Especially holiday season, right? Oh
Yes.
my gosh. Like, we started Thanksgiving in Canada is in October, so ours starts in October, and we just charge right through till New Year's Eve, and then Valentine's Day comes, and then
Yes.
Easter comes. It's like, why does everything revolve around eating? Because we
It,
love food, but
yes. Yes, and they can market it too. It's like, I mean, you see it going up, and I think the way they market it has just been they keep adding more sweets and these different things that they're promoting. And there's all these holidays. And especially if you have kids, man, it drives me crazy. They like have these school parties and then they're like making up more parties, like 100 day of school and like, man, how much more, like, candy and sweets do you guys need? But again, like, that's just the culture we live in, and we go to people's birthday parties, retirement parties, whatever it is, and it can be centered a lot around food, but you can also step back and look at, like, what is the real meaning of this? Is it celebrating this person? Is it having conversations, getting to know people, and trying to think about what's the deeper meaning of some of these holidays and get togethers, and focusing your attention more on that and just not the food?
That's super interesting. You just reminded me, I went to see a talk with, Nigella Lawson. Do you know who
Mm-mm.
Nigella is? So she is, would I call her a chef? She is from the UK, and she had a TV show, a cooking show,
Okay.
and, people she has a few cookbooks. People say she made cooking sexy. So she's very passionate about cooking, and, like, she has some really good cakes, let me tell you, but don't go there when you're hungry. But I the talk with her, she was talking about that exact fact. She said, "Don't worry, don't try to Martha Stewart every meal, don't try to over the top and, have, like, this appetizer and that appetizer, and this is fancy and that is fancy." She said, "When you're gathering together, it should be gathering together and the food is secondary," even though
Mm-hmm.
she makes her living off of food. But I thought it was just such an interesting perspective to shift because advertising has shifted our perspective to, are you serving the best whatchamacallit at your table today? And is it the most rich and decadent and delicious and et cetera, et cetera? And maybe that's not what you should be doing, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and again, it's just something you have to be intentional about because that's just not how our culture and our parties are. But there's a deeper meaning to why we get together and have birthday parties and celebrations and holidays. Um, and we can sort of get back and just do that little mindset shift before we go somewhere.
Do you have strategies that help people, like, get ready for these things when they're going out?
Yeah. So, one, just like I said, starting with that mindset shift first. And two, also pre planning. So, especially, if someone's working with me more for weight loss and health, um, making sure that they're eating something before they go, especially if they know there's not really going to be much healthy food, making sure they're having some protein and vegetables that have fiber in it. So you're getting that little bit of better start and you're not going somewhere starving. And then really being mindful, like, what do you want to eat? Like, do you have a favorite treat? Or maybe like mashed potatoes are your favorite, and keeping that in mind and allowing yourself to have it and not feel guilty about it.
Right.
So you can do that, but just being mindful, like, okay, I don't need a little piece of everything. I don't need a big serving of everything. Being mindful how you can sort of pick and pre-plan what you might eat, especially if it's at a holiday where maybe this is your grandma's favorite or aunts or stuff that you're going to want. Think about it ahead of time. Make sure that you don't go there starving. Eat stuff guilt-free because the guilt and shame people feel from like eating stuff doesn't help move you forward. So even if you end up overeating, being able to release some of that, and you might need to talk through it, but being able to step forward, because when you get stuck in that guilt and shame, you're not going to step forward the next day and do what you need to. Because we can't eat cookies, we can't eat sweets, we can't eat ice cream, we can't eat some of that. We can't eat it all the time and feel great, but we don't need to feel bad when we have a little treat.
Yeah, I remember, I was once reading an Ayurveda book, like,
Yeah.
Ayurveda nutrition book, and I was reading for my, dosha, and it was like, "I can't eat anything," which, of course, with me, that meant, "Oh, yeah, watch me." But, and it's true, we and as soon as you deny yourself something, then you want it. Like,
Mhm.
you're just looking at it like, I can't have it, but I want it, but I want it." And if you give yourself a hard time and feel guilty about having it, then you're just gonna consider yourself as having failed, right? And
Yeah.
then you get that, "Well, why do I even bother?" And that
Mhm.
so then you start telling yourself a story around it, and then that escalates and spirals until you're back where you started,
Yes.
which is kind of a bummer.
Yeah, and it doesn't move people forward, and I think especially when you're going through something by yourself, you may not notice it, because when you start to speak these things to a coach or to someone else, and I mean, someone else is listening, like, what are you saying to yourself? But we
Right.
don't hear it when like those thoughts are going on in our head. And sometimes we really need to say those out loud, or maybe you could journal it, but get those thoughts out of your head. Talk it out with somebody who can help bring you back to some reason and just see things that you're not seeing.
Is that so your membership group, is that part of what it's doing, is like giving that don't give yourself such a hard time?
Yes, definitely. Yeah, I include that. So we do group coaching calls, and then also with my private clients, I'll do one-on-one calls where, some of those clients were working through these things too. But yeah, that doesn't move you forward. And it's interesting when I hear people say some of these things out loud. I mean, I'm thinking like, do you hear what you're saying? I don't say that to them, but we talk through it because I have things too where I'm telling these stories in my head and I'm not really aware how terrible I'm talking about myself or thinking about things until I talk to someone else or start journaling it or think it through. So that can really be helpful if you're feeling sort of stuck in that shame and guilt.
Right. I know there's a practice where, you were talking journaling, like write down everything that you're saying to yourself. Maybe go away from it for a while, go back and read it out loud. And is that something that you would say if your friend was standing in front
Yeah.
of you? Would you say that to them? No. Then why do you say it to yourself?
Yes.
And that's a way to start noticing and catching yourself, right?
Yes. Yeah, I love that. And I'll do that with people too. Like, would you say that to a friend? Like, do you think
Yeah.
that's really kind? Like, no, but we just say it to ourselves. And again, it's just first bringing that awareness to us. And sometimes we need someone to speak some truth into us because we're just not able to do that ourselves when we're sort of in that situation.
Right. Yeah, that's so true. And so your membership was, I'm looking at my list, Healthy for Life membership.
Yes.
Wow. Because small changes, you can like make them last your whole life, right?
Yes. Yeah. And so that's all what I'm about is, I do help people with weight loss because some people do need to lose weight, but it's really doing it in a healthy way. And it's really just developing these habits that create health. And, I also talk about blood sugar with my clients or in my membership because we don't want to be on this blood sugar roller coaster. And especially as we get older, we're heading into menopause. If our blood sugar isn't well controlled, we can definitely see that get worse as we go into menopause. So being able to focus more on health, and that means things we can't see that's going on inside of our body, so that as we age, we're not having these chronic conditions creep up on us. So that's why I'm all about not dieting, really finding these healthy habits that we can sustain and learning how to move our body in a way that feels good and where we can keep gaining strength as we get older because our muscle mass is going to decrease if we don't do that. And we want to have strong bones, have strong muscles, and do these things so we can really be healthy as we age, especially as we go into menopause and as we get older and these hormones and things are changing inside of us.
Right. Yeah. Menopause is like you get a whole new body. You got to figure out how it works now. Crap.
Yes.
What the heck? It's like puberty in reverse.
It is, like,
So,
they like to call it, like, the second puberty because, especially when you're in that perimenopause going into menopause, I mean, your hormones are, like, all up and down, and it's a big shift and a big time of change, and that season can take a little bit, but menopause is normal, and we are meant to go through it, and it's really finding a way to, "How can I go through this healthy? What lifestyle things can I do that can help this be a little bit easier?"
mine was, how can I get through this and not kill anyone?
Yes.
Right? And, you have a podcast, which is well, it's not totally brand new, but it's pretty
Yeah.
brand new. Healthy Beyond 40?
Yes. So, yeah, my podcast is Healthy Beyond 40 and really helping women over 40 start to take control of their health and develop these healthy habits, move their body, sort of help figure out their hormones a little bit and do that in a way that feels good and something that they can sustain. So, my podcast, we just have different episodes really giving you some inspiration and also information because sometimes we don't know things and we need that little tip so we can take that step forward.
That's so true. You don't know until someone tells you. And then you have the, "Oh my god, what?"
Yeah.
Right? That's so good. Thank you so much. Such good information. So, like, every time I talk to my celebrities, I just get to learn something new, and I love sharing that with the audience. But before I let you go, I always want to know if you have a final word of wisdom.
Yeah. I think as we've talked about a lot of different pieces today, going back to this idea of keeping it simple, think of one thing. So, what was your one takeaway that you can change? And if you have more than one, maybe write it down in your calendar, but just pick one thing you want to work on. Is that maybe eating a little less? Is that just getting up and moving for 5 or 10 minutes? And really figure out that one thing and take action, because we can listen to stuff and that's great. But if we don't actually make any changes, we're in that same position. So really finding that one thing, keep it simple. If you have more, just put that on the list for later so that it can still be there and it's not in your mind. It's written down on a paper, and then you can take that action and start to see changes.
That's awesome. Yes, I always let people know your brain is a factory, not a warehouse. So
Yes.
right,
Yes,
right.
I love that.
Thank you so much, Michelle. It was such a pleasure to talk to you today. And friends, if you want to get to Michelle's masterclass, if you want to go check out her podcast, if you want to check out, I know there's a bunch of freebies over there on your website.
Yeah.
Your website is,
MichelleRiechman.com. So hopefully there will be a link so you guys don't
there's
have to
totally
spell
a link.
that.
Yeah, it's okay. We'll make sure it's in the show notes in all the
Yep.
correct places so that you can grab that and you can go over and just remember what I always say, and Michelle just said it too, one thing at a time, one thing at a time, and you will become your fabulous self, more fabulous, right?
Yes.
Thank you, Michelle. Have an outstanding day. Thanks for joining us.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. And friends in podcast land, remember to share this with your other friends. I'll see you again soon. Take care. Hi, my friend. Thanks so much for listening to this entire podcast. If you found it useful and you're like me and you like helping others, please feel free to share this. Give it a like, give it a comment. If you found something useful in it, there's a chance that someone else will find something useful as well. Also, if you have any questions at all, I can absolutely help, and I would love to help. You can email me at heather@prosperityflowcoaching.com. If you want more of this awesome content, you can follow me on Instagram, Heather Stewart Coaching. You can follow me on Facebook, Prosperity Flow Coaching. And I have a personal request. I want to help as many people as I can with these podcasts. And if you could give me a review, hopefully a good one, if you could share, if you could send this out into the world, I would truly appreciate it. I hope you have an amazing day, and I hope that you find your way to wellness by getting back to me. Take care, my friend.